Hey guys, welcome back to Shixak Academics. In the last video, we are talking about the different types of components inside the cabinet of the computer. We talked about CPUs, hard disks, RAM, motherboard, GPU, and all the different components. In this video, what we are going to do is we are going to assemble all of those components together. So without any further delay, let's roll. The first step of the assembly process is to install the CPU in the motherboard. The CPU is installed in the central portion or the socket of the motherboard. We have to note that the socket of the motherboard and that of the CPU should match. For example, in this case, the 6th generation i7 processor has a socket of LGA 2011 version 3, and this motherboard also has the same socket, that is of LGA 2011 version 3. You should know that other CPUs will have other type of socket numbers, and there are other motherboards that exist which are compatible with those. To install the CPU, what you have to do is you have to first open these clips that removes this latch over the socket. This latch helps to keep the CPU in place. So what we are going to do is, inside the CPU there is this little arrow mark in one of the corners, and in this socket also, if you see that there is an arrow mark in this corner, we have to align these corners and place the CPU. We should make sure that this is as dust free as possible before installation. After putting the CPU in the socket, we slowly put down the latch and then we again press the clips in their respective position. Now the CPU is firmly installed in its place. Before attaching all the other components, now let us have a look at the layout of the motherboard. The motherboard consists of a plethora of ports. We have the RAM slots here. In this motherboard, as you can see, that there are 8 different RAM slots. We have the connector for installing the GPUs. This is called as the PCI Express slots. There are 4 different PCI Express slots in this motherboard. Other than that, we have ports to connect our M.2 NVMe SSDs or the Wi-Fi adapter cards as well, which is located in this region. There are also ports which connects the motherboard to the switch-in mode power supply of the SMPS, which can deliver power to the system. In the back side, there are different types of input and output ports. For example, we have USB ports for connecting the pen drives, we have the audio jacks for connecting the speakers, and so on. Other than that, in the bottom panel as well, we have a few connectors which connect to the different buttons and ports available in the front of the cabinet. For example, the power switch or the reset switch. In this side of the motherboard, we have a few ports which connect to the different hard disks and the SSDs as well. Now, as our CPU installation is complete, next we move on with the installation of the RAM. To install the RAM, first we need to unlock this latch. In some motherboards, you have to unlock the latch on both sides, but in this case we can unlock in only one side. Also, inside this port you will see that there is a small plastic notch. We align it with this notch here and we gently push the RAM in the slot. And then we do a slight press to lock it in the place. So this clip will automatically be pulled back into its original place. Like this, we move forward with all the other RAM sticks in the other slots. Now when all the RAM sticks are set in place, we can move forward with the installation of our NVMe SSDs and the Wi-Fi card. This NVMe SSD and the Wi-Fi card uses the M.2 port, which is available in this motherboard. The NVMe SSD and the Wi-Fi card uses what we call as the M.2 port. Now you must note that all motherboards might not have a M.2 port. If you are willing to use this kind of hardware, you have to ensure that these ports are existing in your motherboard. These cards are plugged into these 2 small ports and are held in place by 2 screws here and here. So you will be opening the screws and then installing the cards. We slowly align the cards in the slots and give it a gentle push. Once you hear it snap into place, we can then fix the screw. As you can see, this Wi-Fi card has two little sockets for connecting the antenna. An external Wi-Fi antenna, which may look like this, has two such ports to connect to this Wi-Fi cards. Now in a similar way, we will also be connecting the NVMe SSD card. We'll align in the socket and give it a gentle push until it clicks. And then we'll be putting the screw in the place. This part of the setup is almost complete. We still need to connect the graphic processing unit or the GPU in the PCI Express lanes, but these things are so bulky that I cannot really work with it. At first we will be installing this inside the cabinet, and after fixing that, then we'll be connecting the GPUs to the PCI Express lane at the last. So this is the cabinet that we are going to use to install this motherboard. It has ample amount of space for installing all the different components that we need. This is the NZXT8440. It comes with 3 large fans in the front to provide good amount of airflow so that our components can remain cool while the operations are going on. So without any delay, we will be moving forward with the next phase of the assembly process, that is setup of the motherboard inside the cabinet. The motherboard will be held in place inside the cabinet using 8 mounting holes, and the central pin is used for aligning the motherboard with all the other screw threads. So we'll be slowly placing the motherboard and trying to align the central pin and all the different screw threads. This can be a little bit tricky process, so we have to be patient about it. Once the alignment is done, I'm just taking the antenna out through these slots so that it can be placed outside. And now we'll be screwing in the motherboard using all these screw mounting holes. We can use screws like this, but they are generally provided either by the cabinet manufacturer or the motherboard manufacturer. When you will be buying it, you will be probably getting something like this. Now that all the 8 screws are mounted, we still need to connect the GPUs in the PCI Express slot. And one more thing, for keeping the CPU cool, we have to connect a CPU cooler over this CPU. But both of these, as you can see, are very big components. Before that, we have to power this entire system using our SMPS or switching mode power supply. As you can see that there are lots of ports behind that, and each of them connects to a different component and provides power to them. So we'll move forward with that part now. To prepare the SMPS, we need to consider the different components that we have to provide power to. We can start with the biggest power cable. So this is for the motherboard, and we have one end of it which goes on inside this SMPS. We'll just plug it in, and the other end will go on to the motherboard. The second power cable is this 8-pin connector. It will power the main processing unit, the central processing unit. Again, one end inside the SMPS, the other will go on and connect to the motherboard to provide power. Then we have these 2 cables. This is going to provide the power to the graphics processing unit. Because we have 2 different cards, we need 2 different cables. Again, let me connect this 1 and 2. We also have 2 hard disks and 2 solid state drives that we want to connect to this machine. For that, we need cables like these. These cables can provide power to these hard disks and SSDs. One and 2. Each of these cables has multiple output ports and can provide power to multiple hard disks and SSDs as well. And one last connector that we need. This one is providing power to the fans that is attached to these cabinets. That's about it. We don't think we need any more than this to power the entire system. And we will then just insert this SMPS into the cabinet and route all the cables properly. Okay, so now that our SMPS is in, we have the cables out from the other end of our cabinet, and now we have to connect all these cables to their appropriate components. So now that the power cables are routed, now we'll take care of our cooling and our GPUs. While cooling your cabinet, you need to ensure an airflow in one direction. So we have 3 fans in the front which is sucking air in, and it is flowing from front to back. We will then have this CPU cooler which will again push air into the cooler, which will be in the same direction, and we will also have a fan in the back end of the CPU that is going to push the hot air outside the cabinet. So in this way we can maintain a flow of air in one single direction. If we do not do that, if we do not maintain the airflow in a proper way, the heat won't be dissipated as efficiently, and hence it is very, very important for optimal performance. While attaching the cooler on top of the CPU, we are going to use something called a thermal paste. What it does is it improves the conductivity of the metal that is above the CPU and this copper heat pipes which is in this cooler. Now that the CPU cooler is firmly attached, we will move on to our GPUs. Now the graphics cards, this part of the graphics card would be fixed in this PCI Express lane. We will slowly align it and we can then push it in. We will also connect the second graphics card as well in the same way in another PCI Express slot. Finally, that the graphics cards are connected, we have to now put this hard disk in the hard disk trays. So in this cabinet we are given trays like this where we can attach the hard disk and it can be slide in to the respective position. But other cabinets might have some other type of system. It actually varies from cabinet to cabinet. Here we have like small trays like this. Okay, so the hard disks are fixed in the trays. All that's left to do is to connect these cables to their respective components. And one more thing is that we need to connect the hard disk drives to the motherboard as well. For that we need SATA cables, which looks which looks a little bit like this. And that's it. That's all we need to do, and I'll be on with connecting these cables and we'll show you the finished product after it's completed. Phew, finally the setup is complete. It's quite late at night for today, and I have just snapped on a couple of more fans. We have 2 fans on the above. This is throwing air downwards, then this one is pulling air upwards, so there is a cycle here as well, and I have attached a fan in the back as well. All the GPUs are connected, the power cables are inserted in the GPU, everything is in place. But I have still not turned on the system. Now I want to connect it to power and see if it is turning on and staying on. Let's hope that everything is well. So I'll just plug it and turn it on and let's see what happens. We are seeing some lights in the GPUs showing that it has got power. Other than that, I am not seeing any kind of lights. Let's just see if it runs. 1, 2, 3. What's happening? Okay. I was just afraid for a moment why it was not running. Yeah, like All the fans are turning, the CPU fan is turning, the RAM lights are glowing. Everything seems to be in order from the outside, and we have to install a OS and then find out whether it's running or not. Thank you so much for being a part of this assembly video, and I really hope that you liked it. If you liked it, just drop a like, share your comments, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for future videos, and don't forget to press the bell icon for future updates. Till next time, see ya, bye bye, ciao ciao.